Well, I'm not gonna. Oh, we're
There it
putting
is, baby.
progress. Yeah.
And we
The
are in
problem.
progress.
The problem is I don't like doing the editing because it takes so fucking long to just do even like a little bit, and so
That's why you just don't ever edit anything.
exactly, you just don't
Yeah.
edit anything. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
why we got to start off strong.
It was why we're coming in hot. It's funny on my podcast. I was like, I'm not gonna edit anything. It'll be all organic. And then like we had this one episode where we started with like 5 minutes of technical difficulties, and we are just like talking about it. And then like I listened to the podcast like months later. I'm like, oh, I probably could have cut that out, but
Wait, you actually didn't cut that out?
no. It was just
Oh,
like, oh,
perfect.
why isn't this working? It's just like, I mean, it was like recording the stuff, but we are trying to do like a tournament thing. It's a whole thing. Now we're talking about
I saw
the
the turn.
technical difficulties.
I saw the turn. I don't know if that's like a frequent thing that you do on your podcast, but I saw a tournament episode where do you want to show your podcast real quick?
You want me to like share my screen? What do you mean show my
Oh,
podcast?
sorry, shill. I guess that's like a
Oh, shill. Okay, is that like a
shill.
industry term? So my
Yeah.
podcast is called the Bad Products Podcast. It is a podcast in which me and my roommate Sam talk about products that we think suck. And we're both product managers, have product management experience. So we're a qualified opinion on the voice, but we are it's not a dry conversation. It's not technical. We're having fun. We're fucking around talking about why ketchup packets are terrible, Bluetooth. So yeah, check it out.
Why do they have? Well, actually, okay. Why do ketchup packets suck? And like, how would you compare them against like a bottle of ketchup?
All right. Okay. That's a great. Okay. So why do ketchup packets suck? Let's
Yeah.
start there.
I mean,
All right.
you just get like a
So
little bit, which really sucks, but like it's
a
kind of
little
COVID
bit.
friendly.
It's COVID friendly. That's a design
you're wrong.
consideration for ketchup packets would have existed for. Okay. It's an insufficient amount of ketchup, like you talked about. That's not enough ketchup for anything.
Ever.
Not even for
Nothing.
a
Not even
small
like
pack
one
of
French
fries.
fry. Yeah.
No. And then okay, here's the problem: is that the form factor. So it has like you can kind of tear it on the top, but like it's not like
Kind of.
it's a little you figure it out.
Wait,
Know,
dude, that's a good fucking point. Why don't they just have like a perforated edge where
yeah.
just anything besides what they do now?
Just some affordance that this is where you're supposed to open it, not just like it's kind of easy. And then when you open it, like maybe you get it on a clean thing, but then it's like it comes out of like just a tear in the packet, and so it's messy. Sometimes like you fuck up the squirt, and then you squirt ketchup on your pants or on your shirt. That's happened a lot of times.
Often.
And then also like let's talk about what percentage of ketchup actually exits the packet, right?
Dude, that's
I
the
would
most
say
inefficient fucking thing probably ever. I don't know
it's horribly inefficient.
What is more inefficient? Yeah.
And so it's like, maybe you get 70 to 80% of the ketchup out, but otherwise you're like squeezing the shit out of like the rest of the packet, which like, why do we have to do that? And the thing is that they fix it. So have you seen the new ketchup packets?
The ones that you like peel back?
Yeah.
I haven't really, that's like a San Francisco thing. I remember like I used it like once or twice when I was there, but like, please explain the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happily. All right. So they made, all right. So you know how, if you've been to Chick-fil-A, right? Or I'm assuming people in the abstract have been to Chick-fil-A. Basically, instead of a packet of like just a soft like goo plastic wrap, they have like a hard shell where it's like a cup, like a hard plastic cup with a covering over the top. And so this is great. Because it's more ketchup, first of all. So that, start off hot there. But then it has two form factors for actually opening. So there's one where you can kind of tear off the tip, and then it's a squeezable form factor.
Yeah.
Right. So then you could get a good, and it's like a more like nozzly, so you can actually with confidence
accuracy
on stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or you could peel back the whole thing, and then you just have an exposed cup lake of ketchup, and then easy to dip. You can get a very high percentage of the actual ketchup out, mess free. Boom. So
how many years do you think it took for someone to come up with that design?
That's a good question.
When was the first ketchup packet invented? And then when did they create this new one?
I think, I don't know. It's my guess would be that the first ketchup, let's say the first ketchup packet came out sometime in the mid 1900s, right?
Yeah.
Like,
probably.
Maybe 1950, 60 something. So I don't know. It's the kind of thing where it's like a physical product. I think one thing like we've sort of talked about is that like, I think physical products and digital products have like two very different problems where digital products are over iterated on to the point where like they get fucked up because you'll have like, it's so easy to push updates and you have like these massive companies that are in charge of like, let's juice out more money out of all of our products. Yes. So we'll assign, product managers and engineers and designers to like constantly work on something. But there's a lot of digital products that like they solve a problem. They do what they're supposed to do. You don't need to change them anymore. And so those get over iterated on to the point where like, let's look at, you want to go to a good example? World of Warcraft.
They really fucked that one up.
they fucked it up. They just
fucked
keep
that one up.
adding stuff
Yeah.
every
It was
year.
perfect. It was literally perfect.
It was perfect.
Yep.
And their huge big insight was WoW Classic, which is literally just releasing the original game. Fucking stupid.
That might be the best example of all time. Yeah. And
I mean, it's such a clean, like, yeah, I got WoW Classic. I know you did. Like,
yeah, it's great. I feel like that is also the root of like another problem, which is like smart ass people, like Stanford computer science people like yourself, going and working on like stupid trivial, meaningless fucking. It's like, oh, the one feature of the one thing does like we got to improve the clicks per minute by 80%. I don't fucking
forget 80%, 5%. That's like
I forgot we're not in crypto world. It's like
oh no, we're making small progress that no one gives a shit about. And also, just a quick, I mean, I'll answer that more fully, but like, also it's the kind of thing where all these little like, you know, improvements that you make to digital products, like you'll measure the impact over the next couple weeks or maybe a month or two, and like that's only because there's novelty in whatever new thing you added that maybe drives engagement, but that probably levels out over time, but beyond the like time frame that you'd be looking at, right? Where it's like, if you look at the impact of like a new button being in an app over 6 months, probably it's not going to be doing anything after like 2 months. But so yeah, I completely agree. There's like internal brain drain in the country where like fucking smart people, I mean, it's brutal because like I don't think this is a problem that like it'd be really, really hard to solve this problem of just like, you know, the most successful companies that can pay the most are the ones that already have the most established products, right?
True.
And so they have the least need for like really smart people to come. I mean, they do, but at the same time, it's like, you know, Facebook makes a fuck ton of money and their app works. Their shit all works. Like from what society needs, Facebook doesn't need to be any improved, but they have so much money to improve it. So they're going to do that. And it's irresponsible for them not to do that to their shareholders. So
how many, like Facebook literally, how many employees do they have?
I mean, a
lot.
Like 50,000, 20.
I
don't know how you categorize a whole lot.
And it doesn't need to be changed at all. And of those 50,000 people, how many are like top in their class graduates?
I would guess. I mean, you know, if like just sort of abstracting out the concept of like top in their class graduate of just like a very smart person with who's very qualified and educated. Like most of them in terms of like the actual technical roles, not like, you know, on-site security or whatever. Like over 70%.
Yeah, and then at minimum. Because nothing needs to be changed, how many hours per, let's say you as like a developer working there, how many hours per day do you think you're like actually like pushing code, like good new code? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I guess maybe like if you do like 3 hours of actual developing in a day, then that feels like that'd be a lot from like what I, you know, the insight that I have into the industry like in concept. So yeah, dude, I mean it's wild because like, you know, the government's never gonna have the problem is that the like, you know, so then the question is like, all right, so you have these people who are like incredibly smart and are being misallocated to work on stupid bullshit that doesn't matter. So like, what do you have people work on instead, right? Because like a nonprofit by definition is not going to have. Can you hear? Was my mic all right?
I said crypto.
Oh yeah, there we go. All right, proof of drink, baby. Well, I mean that is the one, you know, if you I think that is the one example of something where the incentives line up in a positive way, where it's like there's a lot of money to be made in crypto, obviously, but then also, you know, establishing blockchain technology in society is like a net positive for society. At least the people in this room would probably, you know, have that opinion.
But I think
so. Yeah,
I think that like right now it is the way it is, which is wow, that was a cool sentence, but it is the way it is, which is anyone can come in and work on their own thing and build something revolutionary that changes the entire game and also make a bunch of money in the process. So like it's this open fucking green pasture of opportunity, and it's just like a complete paradigm shift from what we saw previously. But I think that, you know, at some point market's going to get diluted. Like there's not going to be, I don't know how many years it's going to take, but like there's not going to be as many opportunities as there are, and so people are going to go join the blue chip DeFi protocols or whatever, and like get stuck doing the same shit over and over. So how I think like the paradigm shift is a result of a new frontier and like an entirely new class of thing that you can build, like a brand new tool in everyone's arsenal. So like, I guess, how do we like is it just cyclical? Is it just unavoidable? Can we just not avoid this problem? Or can we build some sort of system that prevents people from like falling into that trap?
I mean, I think you have to look at, like, to answer that, you have to look at like why people do the things they do currently, right? Where it's like, all right, if you want to go work at Facebook out of college, right? You're a very smart developer or some other thing. You want to go work at Facebook out of college. Why are you doing that, right? What's the incentive? Like, you'll get paid well, you'll get, benefits and stock or whatever, and then you'll also like the prestige is a big part.
Yeah.
The prestige, and like you're doing something that your peers recognize and your peers know is like a prestigious move. Versus even though there's like a fuck ton of money to be made in crypto right now, it's still the kind of thing where it's like, if you were someone, you're going to go like, and it's even different now than it was like 4 years ago, but it's like, you're going to go work at Coinbase even let's say not Absolutely. Coinbase, because that's the current blue chip, like, whatever. It's a little bit more kind of like, oh, you're doing that. And I think ultimately, like, people want to just kind of like be doing what is considered all right, you know? And like, I want to do the thing that everyone thinks is all right, and everyone will think I'm like successful and impressive for. And so until we can make, altruistic pursuits, whether it's crypto or not, like, both financially worth it for people, but then also kind of like a mainstream good thing to do, then like, I don't know how we're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
And one more thing, it's also interesting, was just on the green pasture front, like when you told me the thing about how you're like, oh, one day we'll have just like deeds for houses will be blockchain. I was like, dude, incredible. That's like the best. that's like the best application of an NFT I've ever.
Yeah,
it's a great one. And there's so many houses. Think about how many houses there are.
Everyone's got a house, or like
everyone.
Yeah,
they like a lot of people.
Most people. Yeah, a lot of people have houses.
A lot of houses.
There's a lot of houses out there, and it's pretty.
At the same time, it's like someone's got to go build that and kind of like take it upon themselves to like go out of their way to do that. Which like right now that would be a pretty, like, if you told someone you're doing that, they'd be like, whoa, like, how are you gonna freaking do that?
Yeah, I would love to build or know how to build a house.
Oh my god, dude,
I don't.
You're such a man.
I did not. I mean, I appreciated it, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have until the past couple of weeks. But I did know it. But like a personal bank account, I was like, okay, most of the world has like relatively good access to banking. Like, I put my money in Bank of America and then I can like withdraw it and not get hit with crazy fees usually. And it's usually there, and I can like get deposits and do withdrawals. Like, I was like, okay, I can do basic shit. And most of the world probably can do something like, not most of it, but like most of
America,
the first world and America can do this shit. Came down to Puerto Rico. It has been, dude, it's unbelievable. And even if that was the one use case that gets solved by all this shit, I would be ecstatic, because I
just access to banking for even you personally.
Access to one small piece of the financial system, which is like personal checking account. Put the money, like, it already fucking solves the problem, but like, and I mean, if that was it, this would change the world. But that's like not even one fraction of one fraction of one fraction of one thing. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just frustrated with Puerto Rican banks. So
wait, two things. Okay, one, walk me through, because it sounds like it's a bad product experience, but like walk me through specifically what's not working. And then two, I want to circle back. You talked about the like iteration on the ketchup packets thing as a physical product, and I started talking about digital products, but I want to talk about physical product stuff. But why can't you bank? What are the barriers?
They don't let you. Okay.
What do you mean they don't let? So they have let's say there's a bank, right?
There's a bank. There is one. There's a bank.
Great. Love it.
And you go in and you're like, hey, I would like to give you my money. And they're like, okay, here's the list of things that we're going to need. And it's a list of like 20 things. And there's probably like 5 to 10 different organizations that you need to go get certificates from. And they're like, CC, go to Surrey. I'm like, what is Surrey? And then they're like, now you need to go to Hacienda. And I'm like, what is Hacienda? And they're like, you need this thing from this group. And I'm like, I don't know what that group is. And I also don't know what this thing is that I need to get from them. And then I admittedly, if I knew Spanish, this would be much easier, but I don't speak the language. So like, they're trying to explain it to me and I have no idea what's going on. So I've gone to the bank probably like 10 times. And each time I think I have everything. And I go in and I don't have everything. And there's always something new. But then I thought I had I had everything like a week ago. And I went in and they were like, oh, sorry, our branch can't open bank accounts anymore. You have to go, you have to go to the branch that's 3.5 hours away. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. I'm gonna be over there at some point. So like, can you just like connect me with them so we can like schedule an appointment? And then they didn't. He's like, yeah, they'll call you tomorrow. I just told them to call you. I wait another week, no response. Go into the branch again. I'm like, hey, can I send you an email and then you forward the email to them? So then we're like, I have a direct line of communication to the people that can actually open the bank account. And then they don't do that, but somehow I get connected over email. Do that. That's where we're at right now. So I'm connected to these people. Don't have all the documents yet. Need a couple more documents. Have to fill out this form that like says that I have to claim that I'm doing cryptocurrency stuff. So I'm probably going to get denied anyway. But then once I do get the bank account, which if that ever happens, that'd be a miracle. But it's like $200 a month just to have the account, which isn't really like crazy for me, but like,
well, no, but that kills the ability to bank for so many people.
Exactly. And it's like every transaction you do is like $40. And it's like, what? I can't, like, I couldn't believe it. So insane. Wow. Yeah. So I didn't expect this at all, but that is the current situation with it down here.
I would have had no idea that it would be that bad. I would have guessed, and this is stupid, but I hadn't thought about banking in foreign countries. Like, you know, I've used ATMs in other places, but like to reestablish like because you're opening like a new bank account with like the local Puerto Rico bank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would not have. Damn.
So
those fucking institutions, man.
I would not have thought this either, and so that is why I went on a rant about it.
Yeah.
Before we pivot to the physical shit, who are you and what is your drink?
Oh yeah, there we go. Intro to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have no design. I'm free fun. So my name is Pete Ballmer. I am a comedian. I'm based in San Francisco. I am an owner of Ethereum.
Whoa.
Per Billy Ludke's advice from a couple years ago, but I should have listened earlier than that. And today I'm drinking a Fort Point Kolsch, which is my current favorite beer.
I like that place. I don't know, what is it called again? Fort Point? Is it
Fort Point? Okay. They got a good. I've been switching more to the cold. I like a lighter beer these days. I don't like a pale. Like the IPA is too much for me now.
Dude, I can't do the IPA anymore. It like fucks with my stomach.
Horrible.
But yeah, I recognize that the logo thing. I didn't know the name of it, but I like the beers that have that like design on them. So
yeah, it's good design too. They know how to. The aesthetics are important. What are you drinking on this fine day?
Yeah, good form factors. As always, I'm drinking tiny Medalla. They don't have normal size bottles. They have my hand's not like super big and my head's not super big. It's just like tiny bottle. You think that you're getting like a full beer, but you're actually getting 7 ounces. It's really
that's not gonna cut it.
Not gonna cut it. Just like the ketchup packets.
There we go. Yeah, you're gonna need a couple medallitos for proof of drink.
Oh, they are medallitos.
What's going on in Puerto Rico? How's like you've been there for a while? What's the read?
I got back like I don't even know. Time just like kind of melds together, but
I feel that.
I was like traveling all summer and just got back like not too long ago. And yeah, it's been good. There's been a hurricane, so there's like waves. But also it makes the power go out. Oh, one not good thing. I mean, Puerto Rico is great. It's like tropical paradise, but the power grid's about to just completely fail. So I don't know what this means, but they said there's like 3% something left before the entire grid fails. So there's this national state of emergency because we're gonna like lose the whole grid.
Seems bad.
Yeah, not ideal. And like I have solar, but the internet and stuff and like the cell towers go out when you don't have power. So
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. In full darkness for a little while. That's fun.
Yeah, I have candles. It's fine.
Candles are nice. I like a good candle.
Anyway, all right, physical.
Oh, okay, so here's just the other. All right, so I was talking about how digital products get over-iterated on because it's so easy to iterate on and push things out and gauge the success, versus physical products never get iterated on because it's so hard to do any small iteration and it's so hard to measure success. And also it's like there's typically fewer competitors in physical product space because like you have to get the whole manufacturing, right? So it's like for ketchup packets. Also, Heinz is in a specific place where they're, a monopoly basically. And so like, the need for iteration is low. But then also it's just like to change up your design, you have to completely do all the machines that manufacture these. You have to, I'm sure there's like supply chain, like shipping stuff that you need to update. You need to like, just the logistical implications of like changing a physical product are so much higher than like changing a digital product. And then, it's also the kind of thing where it's like, I think ketchup packets is an interesting one where people wouldn't have stopped using ketchup packets, right? Nobody would have stopped. And so it's really nice, honestly, that they changed it because they didn't have to do that. But like they were so, versus in like digital products, it's more like, we can kind of play around with different things and try stuff and see if it works. Like physical products, it's like, you need to know that this is going to work. And then you're not even going to know kind of like how well it works. But they were like, the cup is way better than the packet. And they were right. So
what if we built a company that just like rapidly innovated on every shitty product? Like what if we took your podcast and just built a company that fixed everything?
I love that, dude. And here's the thing is that like that's so good from like a branding perspective as well, because like, we're not out to like sell ketchup. The mission statement isn't to like sell fucking ketchup or whatever the other, stuff. It's just like, we're friends with the consumers, it's like that's why that company would exist, as an ally to consumers who have been pushed around by shitty design for far too long. And it's like, all right, we see your laundry detergent. That got fixed with the pods. The pods is a great iteration.
They're great. I love the pods.
Beautiful.
Yeah. We got to do
our company would have done pods if it had existed in the time frame.
Exactly. So. What if it's like an accelerator and we just like advise like new brilliant people, like people come into the accelerator, they have an idea for how to make a product better, and then we like mentor them through it, and then we can like do this at scale, so we don't have to like fucking manufacture every product in the entire world.
Yeah, I'm super down. It'd be the kind of thing also where it's like it could be like sort of symbiotic, where we can take pitches from people who are like, have something they want to fix, but then also like we as a company could
so funny. That would be
so funny. I'll definitely have to have a proof of drink to hear the pitches.
Yeah.
We get hammered and be like, airplane ticketing is bullshit, or like whatever the shit is.
What's the worst? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're gonna say something.
Was I gonna say? I was gonna say. But then, oh, sorry. It would be two-way, where we take incoming pitches, but then we would also generate a list of like shitty designs that they need to be fixed, and then we'd have the network of people who are good at designing stuff that we just like post to our newsletter, be like, hey, somebody's got to fix toothpaste tubes or whatever. Like, fucking get on it,
dude. This is where the crypto comes in, and the mechanisms enabled by crypto. And what you could do is like people who submit successful ideas, and success can be defined by like maybe people voting on an idea to be built, or it actually gets built or something. For participating in the process, you get tokens, and the tokens are representative of ownership of our accelerator, and we get some tokens too. And then ownership of the accelerator grants you a percentage ownership of every product that comes out of it. And so we create this flywheel where people are incentivized to submit new ideas. They're incentivized to build some of these things, like take ideas from the idea list and build them, and then everyone wins.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So walk me through. All right. So theoretically, without the usage of crypto, could you not still facilitate this sort of ownership structure? Why could you or could you not?
It would be really fucking hard, because it's like pretty hard to like give out, let's say, quote unquote, micropayments of equity. And like defining micropayments loosely, but you can't just like click a button and send someone some fucking equity. So it's like you could probably like do it, but it'd be hard.
It would be at minimum, you'd have to like have a million like meetings and like document signings and all this shit every day to like facilitate this.
We're back to the Facebook problem of a bunch of really smart people doing absolutely nothing with their lives.
Yeah. Well, I'm down. Let's make it happen, big guy.
I like it.
How are you, speaking of smart people doing nothing with their lives, what are you up to these days in general?
Nothing. You just fucking said it yourself. I'm doing this thing called Proof of Drink podcast. I don't know if you heard of it.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah, very popular podcast. Yeah. I hear episode 3 is a banger.
Dude. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I'm at a crossroads right now. So my leave of absence from Consensus like just officially ended. So I'm like exploring the sea of opportunities within Consensus, and then also like I don't know when the fuck the last time we talked was, but
been a minute. We got dinner that one time. I don't think we've actually talked since then. Yeah. And
I'm definitely
was like,
oh, Sam's wedding.
Oh yeah. But we didn't like
talk.
We didn't like talk. No, we were just like, hell
yeah. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I was doing some like advisory stuff. I started like an advisory firm and I advise. And
Layer Zero, yeah.
Layer Zero. And I'm doing like I'm gonna build this like identity protocol, which isn't gonna make any sense to you. So I'm gonna not describe it, but that's like my thing right now. And I think it's a good idea. So yeah.
And so how boots on the ground are you building that right now? Like are you actively coding or like deploying people to code it right now, or is it still in the ideation or
it is still I'm like in parallel ideating and kind of building. Like I haven't like actually done like heads down code monkey shit in probably I don't know how many years, 4 years. But
you don't need to do that. No.
Well, I don't know. It's developers like the most scarce resource right now. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. So I'm just like relearning and learning all the new shit and all the new tools and all that bullshit and trying to like build some shitty prototype of this myself. So I'm gonna build a shitty prototype of it myself, but at the same time, there's like details of this that need to be worked out. And so I'm also working on the details of the mechanism design.
Gotcha. And so like, because you are still on a leave of absence, like in terms of, let's talk like percentage of your day. Like what's your breakdown of how you're spending your day in general?
Oh, dude. Okay. This is a life tip for anyone listening. So I have this app called Routinary. Oh, I just got stuck at cold shower today for 10 and a half hours. Forgot about I was doing this. But basically what I was experiencing a lot of decision fatigue. And so like when you don't have a structured day at all, you're like, holy shit, what do I do? Like it's kind of overwhelming when you have too many options. And so what I did was I've got a morning routine, I've got deep work for a couple hours, then I've got an afternoon routine, deep work session number 2, and an evening routine. And just kind of like map out all the things that I want to do every day, and it's pretty structured. And the thing that I found like most helpful is not turning my phone on. I fucking fail at this literally every day, but when I do it, the most helpful thing is not turning my phone on. I mean, it's on. It's just in airplane mode. I airplane mode until a certain time, until I get some shit out of the way, and then turn it on. World hits me. Then at some point, like 7-8 p.m., airplane mode again, and then just like complete undistracted nighttime activities. Which it just like, dude, even if it was just to realize how much you look down at your phone and look at the apps, even if it was just that, it'd be super important. But I don't know. I really like having structure, and it's not like I fucking follow this all the time. It's just
I don't know, but to have even like a stab of like this is maybe how I should be structuring the day is great. Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I follow the routine. The deep work changes. The hobbies change that are scheduled within each one. Been making music, been DJing, been coding, been surfing,
jacking off. Yeah.
You started doing jujitsu. I don't know. Whatever. What do you do?
Man. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I asked because I'm in a similar position. So yeah, I mean, I like this. So okay, so the first, a bit of background. So I was working as a senior product manager at a mobile gaming company for a little over 4 years, and then I left my job in February of this year to pursue comedy full time. And so it's been interesting, sort of the nature of how, my structure's been in the time since then, where it's for the first, call it 4 to 5 months, I was like legitimately like more busy than I had like time in the day to get done what I needed to get done. Just because, so I was producing 3 shows a week, and there's a lot of work associated with that. I was doing some like product consulting for these 2 startups, which like there was for a while a lot of work to be done for that. I was like doing my podcast, and then there's sort of like miscellaneous other things. There's certain routines that I have a spreadsheet where I have 6 things I try to do every day. I try to read, write, work out, meditate, tweet or put out content, and fucking what's the last one? Oh, I don't know. I can pull it up, but it's some of that shit. But so for a while it's just like getting that in and like taking care of the stuff that I legitimately needed to do. And then after around like 4 5 months. 2 of the shows that I was working on, that I was producing, got shut down basically, and then the product consulting kind of dried up, and then like we went on break for our podcast, and so in more recent months, I've ended up like I just have like a lot more time, and so what's been interesting is that like I've been, one problem I had is that I wasn't like, for all the time that I was like focusing on full on stand up, like I wasn't writing stand up that much. I wasn't like, and you should be spending, if you want to like, people who are actually professional like stand up comedians and like are, this is their full thing. They'll like write for several hours a day at least, kind of thing. So it's been great where I've been able to do more of that, and that's been really good. But it's also the kind of thing where it's like, I don't think that like, spending 8 hours a day writing stand-up comedy would be that productive, frankly, just because like there's diminishing returns on that. And like even if I write 10 minutes of jokes, I have to go try those out somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't make sense to write like a new 40 minutes of potential ideas because I can only try them out so quickly. So yeah, it's been interesting. I've been like kind of playing around with like how I spend my time and like, what I'm doing. But yeah, it's interesting on just on the phone standpoint. I kind of go back and forth where, of course, it's super beneficial to be off your phone more and more dialed into like what you're actually trying to get done, and like the screen time. Sometimes my like screen time on my phone, I'm so fucking embarrassed that
mine is so bad. Oh my god, it's like
let's yeah. Well,
I'm not even gonna share it.
But also, but it's weird because like I'm not sure how much of this is me bullshitting myself, but it is also true that a lot of like comedy is being like, it's very important to be tapped into kind of like leading edge humor and current events.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
that's crypto too. Yeah. That's the excuse that I use. I'm like, I have to be on Twitter all day because I got to stay on like the front of the wave of this cultural movement. And you step away for an hour and you like lose the meme, and you gotta like, so exhausting, dude.
And it sounds fucking stupid when you just like say it out loud, but it's like it's legitimately a thing. And what is also true is that I definitely spend more time, like I spend more time on like stupid shit on my phone than I should, but I also can't, be like a monk about it. Not that that's on the table, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I've been like traveling a lot more for comedy lately, and I've gotten a lot better at stand up in the last couple months, which has been dope. So I'm going to Austin actually in like 2 weeks, which I'm excited about.
Oh yeah, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Pete Ballmer. Those are the two ones
in Texas when you're
do the most about. Oh, in Texas. I was like, oh, we're wrapping up. All right. Let's see. I'll be at Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Ice House on November 1st. I'll be at the Baker Street Pub on November 2nd. I'll be at the Cherrywood Coffee House on November 2nd. I'll be at Thrive Comedy Hour on November 3rd. I don't know where the venue is for that. And then I have another show at Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Ice House. And then I have a show in a barbershop on November 4th.
Wow. I have 6 subscribers and I know all of them, and none of them are in Texas. So
can't wait for them to come out, baby. Hell yeah.
I'll be there for sure.
It's all about exposure, man. It's all about this is exposure right now.
Looks like you're running light there. Can you do it? You didn't crack that one at the beginning of the podcast. We just nice. Okay. Perfect. Cool. Yeah. Is that why you're doing the thing? Because you're
what's doing the thing? What are you asking me?
In December.
How openly are we talking about that?
Probably not super openly, but yeah. I mean, okay. I don't fucking know but like
so that's I'm doing something in November. It's kind of like a mental exploration exercise that Billy recommended to me. That's definitely part of it. Where so one thing I've realized in the more recent months that's been interesting is that like joke writing as a skill is a more right-brained activity than it is a left-brained activity, which is somewhat intuitive, but it's interesting where I've noticed the way that I think about it. Like a lot of the times that I come up with my best joke ideas or come up with my, best sort of like additions to jokes or whatever, it'll be just like a quick, like a spark, like immediate, like I just have the idea, like, and then it'll be like, oh, there, versus like, sometimes when I sit down to write a joke, I'll like grind for hours, like looking up like what's a better example of this that I could use for this. And it's just like I'm realizing that I'm approaching it in a very kind of like left brain problem solving way, which is not like that's just not how I've gotten my good jokes. It's just not like the way where you just sit down and you grind out thinking about one joke idea really hard for hours. Like that doesn't yield good stuff for me. And so it's interesting where it's like, and you know, I made the decision to do the mental exercise prior to me sort of thinking about this. And I also decided to do the mental exercise also because I was like, just kind of like feeling a little unsettled, partially about like my decision to pursue this full time, which is something I felt better about in the last like month or so. But you know, still, and there's some other stuff that I won't discuss. But yeah, so that's one thing I'm curious about. Is just like, and I kind of realized this. I ate one mushroom on like a week ago. I'm fine saying that. And
It's legal in San Francisco or something, right?
it is, yeah, it's decriminalized in Oakland, so it's fine. And I noticed it was like I had like 4 like joke ideas that I was really excited about, like just like in the next like couple hours. Like, you know, I was like at a concert, I was like drinking and like not focused on that, but I was still like, oh. And I'm like, and so that recently had me go like, oh, maybe this mental exercise will be good for kind of like getting my right brain really cooking and in the game, and like, you know, getting me in the mental process of like using it enough to kind of like, you know, be as productive as I can be. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
that'll be interesting. I'm like super curious to hear your experience because I've never like, I've always approached the mental, what are we calling it? The mental exercise from the point of like, it's never been like that targeted for me, I guess. So I'm curious to see like, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, yeah, and to be clear, also, it's not like I'm not viewing it as like this will cause me to da 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 or allow me to da da da. Like, you know, I'm not viewing it as a silver bullet for anything. And there's a lot of stuff I want to just sort of like, I don't know. The way I'm looking at it is that there's certain things that are kind of like bubbling around in my brain that I have like, you know, somewhat of a handle on in both like good directions and bad directions. That like I'm like I kind of have a handle on this, but I also like this is also kind of like a darker corner of my mind, you know? And so I'm curious to see like if I go in with sort of like intention for some amount of scrutiny for certain, you know, dark corners of my mind, which again sounds dramatic and shitty. And some of them are like good things that I just want to think about more, and some of them are less good things that I want to think about more. But I'm just curious to see what kind of like comes out. So yeah, I don't have an expectation that it's gonna like make me a better thinker or whatever. But
yeah, I think the mental exercise is very good at providing answers, and the hard part is like implementing those answers in your daily life when you reimmerse yourself in these medallitas. When you reimmerse yourself in the world, and you know, you come out and you're like, oh my god, like I'm enlightened now. And then you run into the bum on the street that fucking punches you in the face and takes your wallet, and you're like, oh my god, we're back. So yeah.
No, I mean, I'm curious. I'm very curious on like that, you know, element or two of how well I sort of like, you know, maintain the learnings and what sticks in my head and what I kind of like think about the hardest.
I think it's really important. My only like piece of advice is to immediately write down, not like the next day. Make sure you just write down, go through the whole, because you like kind of remember everything. Like write down the whole story, replay the story in your mind, and write the story down, describe the whole thing, and then make sure that you revisit that periodically. And then also make sure that you like kind of have some sort of strategy in place post exercise to ensure that you are doing the things that you want to be doing and not falling back into old patterns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a good it's a good way of putting it. And I'm doing it with a friend too, so I'll have some amount of like, you know, at least implicit accountability.
Yeah, that was really cool, doing the mental exercise with Samuel.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Cool. Yeah. Good luck, dude. Yeah, keep me posted if you have any questions on that. Like,
I will. We might have to proof of drink again to fucking. No, probably not. But
this is your only proof of drink? What the fuck?
It's still not my only proof of drink, but I don't know if I'm gonna be a guest again in 1 month. I mean,
that's fair.
I'd imagine you would have more guests than that. Or I don't want to. That's a disservice to proof of drink to imply that I would be back so soon. So
I mean, these episodes are entirely sporadic and can happen as frequent or as infrequent as I want. So I could have 1,000 episodes in the next month, and you could be one of them, or I could have one and it could just be. But
also me, yeah.
All right. I don't know if you have like any topics that you want to focus on or talk about?
Not, you know, I wouldn't say. I mean, I'll talk about whatever. Not burning. I would say, but I'm down to fucking chat about. I'm kind of curious, like what prompted you to start the pod?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. So it was kind of COVID. And so with COVID came the lack of crypto events, blockchain events, Web3 events, whatever you want to call it these days. But like the most exciting part about crypto to me was like meeting all these crazy interesting people and having all these crazy interesting conversations with people who like really want to change the world. I don't know. It's just like a mindset that like a lot of the Ethereum ecosystem has, and the conversations with those people in a setting where they're like a little bit drunk. It's like the water cooler talk with like the Giga Brains. I was like, fuck, I'm not getting these conversations anymore. I feel like I'm not, you know, I'm thinking about interesting things, but I think I could be thinking about more interesting things because I need like people to riff off of, and I need people to feed me new ideas. And so I kind of want to replicate the drunken meetup slash conference environment in a podcast setting and be able to like do it where like I'm in Puerto Rico. I don't get to do it now. And so I want to have those conversations still and allow other people access to those conversations. That's literally it.
Yeah, I mean it's so interesting, like the amount that like other people are nourishing to your own brain, and
Yeah.
specifically like other sort of like smart, interesting people, is so huge and so not to be understated. And it's also like, I mean, it's you're in a position now where you're sort of like deprived of that. Like if you don't go out of your way to make it happen, just like living in Puerto Rico, I don't know, maybe you're friends with your neighbors, but I don't know like that situation. But I feel like I don't think I've ever actually had an extended period of time in my life where I've been like deprived of like smart, interesting people to kind of like bounce ideas off of. And but I also think it's interesting, just like the general, there's certain things that I think are very like immeasurable, but I think are very like, have a profound impact. Like the fact that with podcasts, just the distribution of like podcasts in the world, where at any point in time, anyone can listen to like pretty much anyone they want to hear have a conversation, like whenever, is amazing.
Yeah.
Like from like a comedy standpoint, like there's so many comedy podcasts where you could listen to like whoever your favorite comedian is talk for hours in like a casual way that's also like focused to pretty much like whoever else. And like that's such a gift. Like, and it's and I'm not and it's funny because like I've spent hours. Well, I mean, hours is such an understatement. I've spent like hundreds of hours, maybe thousands of hours, like listening to podcasts of like, people who I think are interesting, like talk about stuff. And like I don't know what that, because that does something to your brain, right? That does something, and I don't know what it is. Like I don't know how to like measure the impact, but it's like I definitely think different as a result of having been like a fly on the wall for so many good conversations that like I would have never heard otherwise, right? So I don't
That's
know.
like a problem that I have is, or I guess before I say this, I want to say if you have made it this far in this episode, I am unbelievably grateful. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Yeah, what are you doing, dude?
What the fuck are you doing with your life?
Get it together.
Because there's infinite people out there that you could be listening to, but you're choosing to listen to me and Pete like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, but good on you, I guess.
I'll probably rewatch this. It's probably good.
Yeah,
What the hell was I saying before that?
you were saying I'm gonna say this before I say the next thing. It's so that I don't know that I was talking about the impact that podcasts have on your brain and the exposure to conversation.
Oh, so a problem that I have is that the podcasts are so interesting that I like find it hard to have like do small talk with people. It's like I don't fucking care about your day. I want to like talk about crazy shit or like listen to. I don't like talking. Even though I host a podcast, I really don't like talking. I like listening to people talk, and like if I could just sit in a room and not have to say a goddamn word, that's like my ideal scenario. And so podcasts are my ideal setting, and it's become hard for me to like engage in not interesting conversation because I'm just like so accustomed to it because I listen to so many interesting conversations, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's also interesting to just like, I mean, what's wild to me is that, whatever, I feel like for a lot of different like positions you can take on things, it's just like based on my worldview, it's so hard for me to imagine someone having like a different worldview, like in the abstract for certain things. But like on this topic specifically, I was, are you familiar with like the Myers-Briggs shit?
Yeah.
Okay, so one, I only bring it up for the sort of like So there's one like one of the four like fucking things like the letters is N versus S, which is like intuitive versus sensing, and it's a whole thing you could like look up if you give a shit. But like the main thing is that like I feel like I've been able to suss out people who are like N's versus S's based on like their desired conversation topics, where it's like they certain people have only inclination to talk about like ideas and like concepts and like theoreticals and talk in a way that's like kind of engaging to think about and like actually challenges your brain. But then there's also, and those are like N people, at least from out has to sit up. But then the S people, like there's people who like legitimately just want to talk about like, oh, this happened and this, like just discuss like just details, just like literal concrete details of just like, oh, this happened and we did this and it was this. And it was like, oh, cool. Oh, I'm watching this TV show. I'll have to check that out. Like, and it's weird because it's like, I think for a while I would have thought like that it's like, oh, they're just not comfortable doing deep talk yet. But it's like, I think a lot of people just legitimately prefer, and a majority of people, I think, legitimately prefer to just like kind of talk about nothing,
Yeah.
or not nothing, just like just concrete details of.
I think you're right. Fuck. I'm really bad about, I think the thing that I'm worst at is like remembering that people's perceptions of situations are like entirely different than my own.
Yeah.
And yeah, fuck. I think that because of that, oh man, it's hard for me I need to get better about appreciating the whole spectrum of human behavior, because
let me just interject real quick before I forget this. So you said it's hard for you to like, what was the exact phrasing you used? Like appreciate like different,
the entire spectrum of like human behavior. And
yeah. So you said, so I mean, it's interesting when I like to talk. I like to talk. And I like to listen too, but I like to talk if it's something I want to talk about. And so it's interesting because there's a lot of people who prefer to listen. And I remember it was interesting. Our friend Patrick, I was talking to Patrick years ago, because he's not a huge talker, right? And my perception up until I had this conversation with him is that when somebody is not talking in a group conversation like for an extended period of time, it's because they feel uncomfortable or awkward or embarrassed, and that's how I perceived it. I was like, oh, they're not talking, they must feel uncomfortable. Versus like Patrick told me, I was like, you're kind of a quiet guy. He's like, yeah, I just prefer to listen. And I'm
dude,
like,
that's me. Yeah. Fuck.
and that just totally flipped it for me. I was like, damn, like, yeah, that totally, and that makes me feel way better because like then if I'm in a situation where somebody's just being quiet, it doesn't make me worried like, oh, are they uncomfortable? Which they still could be uncomfortable, but like there's a lot of people who prefer to listen, and that's great.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because like you have to have some opinion of how the person's feeling so that you can kind of like let's say Patrick isn't having a good time, like you'd want to go over and like help him have a good time. And so you kind of need to be aware of like the person's personality type. And I don't know, I think there's some analysis to be done, but you have to do the analysis in light of the fact that everyone has different perceptions and personality types and all that stuff.
Definitely.
Life's hard, man. People are hard. People are
hard, dude.
So hard.
And it's I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of if you're someone who's not particularly emotionally intelligent, then it's easier to have a conversation that's just rooted in concrete details.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like, I mean, it's funny, guys are like, oh, I could talk about sports with this guy, and that's like a barometer that they're like a good guy. And it's like, not, it's just like they have the same lexicon of information as I do. So I'm able to go back and like, oh, the running back had this many yards. And they're like, oh yeah, but then last year he had this many yards. And it's like, you're not learning anything. You're not learning anything about each other or anything else. But like, it's a comfortable, you can kind of sit in your lexicon of shared information and feel comfortable. And, I think a lot of people just want to feel comfortable, and,
yeah. Is that what it, oh, man, I guess you're right. So I approach the entire world from the perspective of like, the world's kind of on fire. Like everything's going to shit. I mean, even if it wasn't going to shit, I think the only like interesting thing to do is like move forward and progress things. But we like really got to move forward and progress things because the whole earth's going to die and like a lot of people are suffering. And I also like feel guilty because I live like a really good life. And every time I have a really good time, I'm like, fuck, well, there's 7 billion people that are never going to have this good of a time. Like that's so sad. And so I'm like, fuck, we gotta like improve things. And so I approach like my conversations and the way that I interact with people from the perspective of like, how can I like absorb something that is gonna help my worldview or mindset in like the ultimate progression of the world. Does that make? I don't know
It
how to.
does. No. You're being. I mean, it's interesting. I think that the way that you approach, you have a comfortable life, right? You have a comfortable
Yeah.
life, and so you're sort of approaching you approach conversations differently versus I think a lot of people, maybe they had like a really bad family life growing up, or they, whatever current situation that, has made their life uncomfortable in the past or is
Right.
currently making their life uncomfortable. And so just being able to, have a small talk conversation is a source of comfort and a respite from, what could otherwise be a hard life. There's also a lot of people who are perfectly comfortable that also have fucking stupid conversations about nothing too. But like, I think it's, it's interesting, and it all, yeah, and I don't know. It's interesting. I also feel obviously like guilty when I'm just like having a good time and being comfortable, and I know that that's not the situation for everyone. And there's things that I do to give back. I of course it could be more kind of thing, but like I don't know. It's an interesting problem where it's like I don't know. You say the world's on fire, and it is, but I think people. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say that I think people have always thought that the world is totally fucked, but I actually don't know if that's true. I don't know. I think people always have some semblance of thought there, but I think especially before the internet, like if you just lived if you just like have a house and you have like a
Like,
wife you get
great.
along with, you're like maybe you get news every now and then that something bad's happening, but you're like, it's fine.
I
I'm
think
just gonna
like
chill.
until very recently, people thought the world was just like bigger than themselves, and there was nothing that they could like. This system was just gonna like continue to exist, regardless of whether or not they shot the deer in the head to get it for meat, which was their
Yeah.
whole day. And so it wasn't like the actions they were taking had absolutely no effect on the macro state of things. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting. I find myself like like trapped in that thought. I have to kind of like get myself out of that way of thinking sometimes because like, you know, before I turned 18, I was like, I'm not gonna vote. I'm like, my vote's never gonna matter. Like it like which that is correct. It won't. It won't. My vote will never determine an
Except for
election.
Ben Samuels, vote Ben Samuels.
Exactly. Vote Ben Samuels for Missouri District Number 2. But which I can't vote for. But anyway, but I mean it's but I think it's interesting if it's like, it's easy to get in the sort of drop of the bucket, like, way of thinking, and then, can lead to a very sort of like hedonistic and nihilistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, which, and I think, there's just all this sort of normal bullshit about like, you got to do your part, etc. But it's interesting to me where it's like, for me, it's like I have to kind of like course correct to like think that way, where my default is nothing I do matters really in the scheme of things. Versus like I'm always so impressed when I encounter people who don't by default think that way, who are like I really got to do my part because it is extremely important, and like legitimately believe that, as opposed to like, I believe that because the only way at a macro scale for things to happen is if enough people believe that. But that's why I believe that, is to make things happen at a macro scale. But I think people, a lot of people just like actually believe that.
I believe
like,
that. I think,
yeah.
I mean, it's like any one conversation can like alter the fucking course of history. Like, I think that I totally think that, but I also don't. I'm like realistic about it. I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna eat meat because like the one burger that I eat isn't gonna save the fucking planet. Like,
Yeah.
we gotta systemically change things if we want to change things. It's not like, oh, if I leave that one light on all day, it's gonna save the fucking planet. It's like I gotta build a system that like makes people save the light. I don't know. That's how
No. And I think, and let me walk back part of what I said. I think, you've identified a space in which your individual actions can have a very outsized impact on like kind of like what you're trying to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like in that way, and I think, in my own way I have as well, but it's like, but yeah, I mean, it's the burger like thing is like what I'm kind of like talking about.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I figured. Yeah.
and I think it's ultimately, it can be productive to think that way, because then it, forces you to find places where you can make an outsized impact, as opposed to like just doing stuff that won't ultimately matter. But
yeah.
I think, it's a lot of it's just sort of like appreciating what is happening right now, and like not sort of ruminating on like what the ultimate impact or what the ultimate like, like could like has been or could be, and just being like, if I put a recycling can in the recycling now, then there will be more recycling right now. And that's kind of a beautiful thing. And you don't need to think about like, is it going to single-handedly prevent or cause global collapse? You don't fucking know.
Right. Yeah. I think
Man.
everyone just gotta be a good person and do what they think is the right thing. And that's it. I don't know. Proof of
Amen,
drink.
big dog.
You gotta fucking just do the thing. You gotta do the thing. And that's all we can do is the thing. And there's no other things that we can do besides the thing. So
And it's always now, baby.
it's always now. How crazy is that?
That's been my refrain recently. Dude, I love the fact that it's always now, you know? It's so easy to process whatever's happening right now.
Yeah, it's so easy.
You know, like you worry about like, oh, what will da be in the future? Where it's like, well, you know, it'll just be now then.
Whoa.
You know, like it'll still be now then. And so even if you're, you know, richer or poorer or lonelier or, you know, whatever the situation, it'll still be now, you know? And like empirically, you're pretty good at dealing with what happens now. So you'll continue to be pretty good at happens now, especially in the future. You'll be even better at dealing with what happens now than you are now.
We've never not been able to deal with the now because we're here and doing the thing. Yeah.
Also, we got it pretty good, so it makes it easier to deal with the now when you have a certain sort of predisposition for, you know, a cushy life. But at the same time,
that's why we got to use our now to make the now of the other people more now.
I agree. To be able to just focus on the net, you gotta. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that prevent you from focusing on the net. Like if you're on the brink of financial collapse, it's hard to be that pumped about the now.
Yeah.
But
or just like at war, or like there's a genocide, or like
I mean, if there's a genocide happening around you, you're gonna be very focused on the now.
That's yeah.
That's like not in a sick way, but you will be.
You're right. All right, question for you before we go, because I can't believe how long it's been already. How do you cap your? I had two questions. One is, how do you like? What's your time limit of your podcast, and how do you cap them? Because my last one went for like 3.5 hours. I tried to end it at like the hour mark, and then the guy was like, "We're ending." I'm like, "Okay." Like, how do you like ease? I guess it's. Do you have guests, or is it just you and?
So I don't know. I think it's interesting where the kind of podcast that you're doing is different than the kind of podcast that like because the thing is like for me is that, you know, I love the sort of like, you know, the concept of like a podcast where just like interesting people talk to each other and you can kind of like listen for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And so I think for a podcast, you know, but it's the kind of thing where it's like nobody gives a shit about like two local Bay Area comedians talking shit. Like nobody gives a shit. So it like doesn't make sense for me to like, if I were to have a podcast like that, it wouldn't make sense to have it be infinitely long. But and so for bad products, we kind of say a half hour is the guideline.
Okay.
Where it's like, and for us, we do like, you know, what we've done in the past, we're going to experiment with the format, but it was like 4 products. And, but if we like talk about 3 and we're already over like half an hour, then we'll usually just call it. But, so that's kind of how we do it, just in terms of like, we want to have, you know, the kind of podcasts that I listen to are just people talking loosely and conversationally. Those are the ones that I like, but you know, it's hard to get traction with one of those unless you have exclusively interesting people on, and you're a guy in the crypto space, so you have the luxury of being able to potentially do that, or nobody listened and then it's fine, you still made something. But yeah, I don't know, I don't know, I just sort of do it like format wise around half hour, and then I don't really have like a specific way to cap, just kind of like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just like I don't want all the good content to be, I'd rather end and start a new episode than have, I'm figuring this out on the fly. If you're listening, this is just like me thinking through this shit on the fly, but I'd rather end it and then start a new one and then pick up the conversation where we left off, because no one's going to make it to the hour and 50-minute mark or whatever. They're not going to. And if we talk about cool shit at the hour and 50 mark, like that shit's going to be lost forever because no one's going to make it to it. So there's like a balance. I don't know. We got to find the balance. This is episode 3. So we'll get there. But
I mean, I think you're approaching it the right way, and I think, you know, it'll be interesting to sort of see. Are you putting this on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts?
Absolutely not. No, I just
just YouTube.
Maybe one day.
I mean, you could still look at like, you know, if you do keep doing this for a while, you can look at like analytics to get a sense of like where people are dropping
That
off.
is the antithesis of what I'm doing. I don't even care if anyone listens. I just want to have these conversations. So
yeah, I just fucking let it. Then why are you worrying about how long it goes and capping it? That seems like an antithesis as well.
You're fucking right. Yeah, I just don't want it.
You don't want to what?
maybe for myself, I don't want to listen to an hour and 50 minutes of bullshit and then have to get to the good stuff. I guess I could see.
No, that's super fair too. I mean, I think that I have something I have to be at 7:30, but like we should still wrap this up either way. And I think we've had some good talks here. But I also think that you can kind of suss it out. You
Suss it
kind of
out.
feel
Suss it
like
out.
we've been talking for a while now. We've had some good free flowing stuff, like easy convos. And I think right now we'd kind of have to be like, all right, what's the next thing we're talking about? And
Yeah, I
like,
got one more. I got one last thing before
hell
we
yeah, I'm excited for the one last thing.
hit it hard. What is the worst product that you ever reviewed?
Ooh, oh, so we did the tournament was our season 1 finale. And so what we did was we like set up a tournament of all the bad products that we talked about over the course of like the season 1. And we got it to a final 4, and then we let the listeners decide. And the final 4 was what was it? Wait, I could pull this up. Or the final 4 is automated help systems,
Oh god.
Bluetooth, autocorrect, and milk cartons.
Like Bluetooth is pretty cool.
But you should listen to the Bluetooth episode of our podcast, because it is cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna do the whole thing right now, but you should. It's so bad. I mean, there's a lot of problems with Bluetooth, but the winner ended up being automated help systems.
Those are absolutely the worst.
Those are the worst. It's the worst. Like, it's just such an efficient way to fucking kill your time. Like, because
that's what they're made for, though, to kill your time so much that you just hang up and don't need to speak to a representative.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's an insane because the thing is that like it's so slow to process information auditorially instead of visually.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you just gave a menu that I could tap through as opposed to like to da 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 press 1 to da 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 press 2, and then you don't know what it's going to be next. You don't have any ability to get back. Like, and that's still the industry default for service pretty much. Like there's some online shit, but it's like mostly you're going through automated help systems, and then you get to like one person maybe. And just, I don't know, I feel like my success rate on getting done what I need to get done from an automated help system is very low. It takes very long, and it's the most unpleasant experience. And that was actually a submission from Aaron. So yeah, good for him.
What is the worst feature of anything that you've ever come across?
I think a fun one that's definitely in the running that we talked about on the podcast is the Venmo global feed.
That's so bad. That's definitely the worst. That's the worst.
It's like they have, up until recently, they changed the interface. So I don't know if it's this way now, but for the longest time, they had 3 tabs. One of them was like you and your friends' transactions, which makes sense. One of them was like just your transactions. And then the third one was just every possible transaction. No sorting, by definition, 0 relevance. Like, I would never want to scroll through that and look at that. I would never want other people to see my transactions on a global feed. And like, that's not a really trivial feature either. Like, it takes a non-trivial amount of effort to add that to Venmo. So it's like, I don't know how that ever got funded. And I have to imagine engagement's like 0.
You think the thesis was back in the early days of Venmo, they're like, we need to show that people are using the app?
Honestly, yes. I think that's the best possible explanation for. And they were like, and their thing at the beginning, which is in retrospect stupid, but it's like it's social and fun to use Venmo, which did work in getting people to use it at least for a sec. I don't know. It was also just convenient, but now it's, yeah. I mean, I think that's honestly a really good point. It was probably to show that people were using the app, like as a validation that like you could trust your money on here because a lot of people are using it, as opposed to just like, hey, this is a spot that we can facilitate transactions kind of. So that's a good point, but it's still a garbage fucking feature.
Absolutely garbage. Yeah, they could have done that. And actually, I don't know. I kind of like it. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, just give me a two second. Snapchat news feed.
I don't even know what that is. I don't have Snapchat anymore. Before they had the news feed.
I mean, it's funny. It's just like in one of their attempts to like when they were trying to figure out how to monetize, they added like you could scroll to the right and then they have like a feed of like news stories, like BuzzFeed news. It's so BuzzFeed. It's like the lowest common denominator of like what is considered a news story so reliably, and it's like, and it's just way overcrowded. The thing is like to put that in way overcrowded the rest of the interface and made things like way harder to use basically. And it's
2 questions. Yeah. Are the news things Snapchats? Like there's short form videos? Or they like text?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's not text. No, I mean that'd be hilarious, but it's so in that way, I guess it's good that they did that instead of just putting it in text, which would be
Yeah. And
hilarious.
then second question is, do people still use Snapchat?
Apparently their stock price is climbing. I think.
Really?
Yeah, because here's how they're making money is that they have the highest quality facial recognition like filter engine kind of thing by a wide margin, and so they can make really good ads by being like the Taco Bell filter, turn your face into a taco, and then you send that to someone. That's a way better ad for Taco Bell than anything you would just see scrolling around. So I think that's where they're sort of like making their money these days, and good for them, I guess. But
so sad.
I think people aren't like using it that much, but I don't know.
So many big brains going to build the fucking Taco Bell feature.
Exactly.
Full circle as always. Pete, dude, thanks for coming on. This has been awesome.
For sure, dude. Good chatting, and keep in touch for post mental exercise.
I'm excited for that. Enjoy your 7:30 thing.
Yeah, I have a show. It'll be fun.
Oh, good luck, dude.
Yeah.
I gotta come to one of those soon. Are you outside Lansing?
No, I'm gonna be in Eugene that weekend, seeing Jack.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll be in town, unfortunately.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you.
Peace. Have a good one.